Okie dokie. We've got a couple of you guys popping in. I know a lot are watching the recording. Let me just pop you over and see if I can get that share screening. Let's just see if they are going to jump in or not. That should pop them through now. Cool. So quite a few people are going to be watching the recording of this. So how I'm going to do it today is I'm just going to go through a few different areas that I think you should be addressing when you are lacking energy in your diet, because I feel like this is a really big one for a lot of women, and I have quite a few resources on this in my podcast, but also on my YouTube channel. But what happens essentially is when I talk to women, they usually have a range of gut symptoms. So it might be bloating, it might be constipation, it might be loose stools, whatever it is. Secondary to that, on 99% of the intake forms, women are then saying, oh, but I'm also constipated. Oh, sorry, I've also got really low energy. There might be skin stuff, there might be weight issues, there might be whatever it is, but energy is always a big one. So that can be in the form of brain fog, that can be in the form of fatigue, that can just be some women are waking up waking up tired even after sleeping 8 or 9 hours. Some are waking up fine, but as the day goes on, their energy is really dropping away. So there's a few key things that I just want to touch on today to help give you guys an understanding as to why you might have low energy, because it's normal to be tired. So you can think about why you're tired in the first place and go, okay, is it lifestyle? Is it kids? Is it work? Is it sleep? Is there some external factor? That's always a part of it, which is obviously got to be considered. But if you are sleeping 7 or 8 hours, if you maybe don't have kids or you don't have kids that are waking up during the night, if you are enjoying your job, so you don't feel stressed out by work every single day, if you're exercising but you're allowing adequate recovery time, then you need to go, okay, well, there's something else going on here. So the first thing when it comes to energy is the carbohydrate intake. Okay, so are you eating enough carbohydrates? And where are you getting your carbohydrates from? And sort of, are you balancing them with your other meals? So when it comes to carbs, there used to be this whole sort of fear factor around carbs, in the sense of like, shit, should we not be eating carbs? Are they not good for us? Do they spike insulin levels? Are they going to make us put on weight? This is no longer the sort of thought process around carbs. There's a lot more people who are open to eating carbohydrates now. And what we understand about carbs is that they're actually fuel for your metabolism or for your thyroid. So if you're not eating adequate amount of carbohydrates, you're not feeding your metabolism, and therefore your body starts to go into what we call energy conservation mode. As it does this, everything slows down. So digestion slows down, metabolism slows down, thyroid slows down, hormone production slows down, and then we start to get all these symptoms. You need to be eating adequate amount of carbohydrates to tell your body it's safe, it's okay, I'm going to provide you energy. You don't need to spit out a heap of cortisol. I'm not going to, make your adrenal glands burn out. So that's part of the carbohydrate picture. Understanding how many carbs is what varies from person to person, because most women I work with come into my 6-month program with gut issues. So if you're coming into the program with gut issues, a higher carbohydrate, so someone like myself who's eating 250 to 300 grams of carbohydrates a day, a high carbohydrate diet may not actually be suitable for you. If you've got parasites, candida, bacterial overgrowths, that you're going to feel like crap on a high carb diet, because all the fiber generally, because you're getting a good whack from fiber, some from honey and other things, but all of that is going to aggravate your gut symptoms. So understanding that you might be on a lower carb diet while you're working on SIBO or parasites or bacterial overgrowths, and then we increase it over the coming months, and then you can start to track it and go, hey, cool, need to be doubling my carbohydrate to protein intake. Let's see if I've got a macros one on there. No. So what you want to be doing is having, if you're having 30 grams of protein in your meal, so let's just say you'd have to be having like 4 or 5 eggs, so you're probably not going to do that. But if you're having a high protein yogurt or a smoothie with protein powder or chicken thigh, chicken breast, some form of mince meal, and you've got that 30 grams of protein tracked, 30 grams of protein, not 30 grams on the scale. It's probably going to be like 150 grams on the scale to get you 30 grams of protein. You're then going to match your carbohydrates to be at least 30 to 60 grams, okay? So that you keep those blood sugar levels balanced, and this is what's going to keep your body happy. At a minimum, you can go 1-to-1 if you're in some kind of fat loss reduction phase or something. You could go 30 grams of protein, 30 grams of carbs. If it's pre or post training, if it's general health, if it's recovery, if it's anything, I try to get my women to double it, so go a 2-to-1 ratio, because like I said, it'll help with those blood sugar levels, and it'll help keep that energy stable throughout the day, but it will also help you recover better from your workouts and things as well. The type of carbs that I like to go for, one is usually gluten-free carbohydrates. I do find that in a lot of the women with thyroid issues, gut issues, autoimmune issues, gluten is quite inflammatory and quite triggering. So then I do say, hey, let's just minimize the gluten while we sort of work on the underlying issue here. It doesn't mean you can't ever eat gluten, but it just means it can be quite triggering. And if your body's getting triggered, you're going to have more inflammation, and therefore you're going to have that fatigue because your body's got to put out more cortisol to downplay the inflammation, and you have a bit of an issue there. So if you want more energy, eat more carbohydrates. If you have a gut issue, minimize your carbohydrates, do stool testing or SIBO testing, work on the root cause of digestion, then add those carbohydrates back in. That's kind of the jinx of it. If you, like I said, if you go keto, if you go carnivore, if you go long-term low carbohydrate diet, it will decrease your energy. If you are not eating enough carbohydrates for your exercise output, you will have poor energy levels. So you need to understand and go, okay, maybe I'll just track my main meals, like my breakfast, lunch, dinner, for a couple of days, and just have a snapshot. The amount of women who message me on Instagram after tracking just for a week, just out of interest, track for a week, have a look, and then go, oh, actually my bloating's gone down because I realized my carbohydrates were way too low or way too high, and my protein wasn't anywhere near enough. It's the small things that can make a big difference. And then the shift in energy levels in a lot of women inside my program, once they add in enough carbohydrates, is very substantial. They have like a lot more energy. Like I said, this will help balance those blood sugar levels if we can have a meal with protein, carbs, and fats in it. So if you're thinking your proteins are some form of meat, eggs, dairy, your carbohydrates, which I love, like your root vegetables, like your potatoes, things like carrots and pumpkin are sort of medium, they're not that carby. And then your fruits, quite high in carbohydrates, your juice and your honey, a little bit of dried fruit, those things. Rice, quinoa, carbohydrates, and then your fats, which you usually use in your cooking. So your oils, your butter, your ghee, those things are really important as well. Balance it out for each meal. If you're eating a carbohydrate-rich snack, like a banana, without any fats or protein, you will get a bit of a spike in that blood sugar level, which is not something I would recommend on a day-to-day basis. If you're having a breakfast full of oats or muesli or a smoothie without any protein or fat in it, I would expect to see negative impacts later in the day on your energy levels. If you're training fasted and you're not fueling pre and post workout, I would expect to see an impact on your energy levels because your cortisol has had to spike and rise in response to you not adequately fueling the body. The third thing, carbohydrates, blood sugars, and adrenal health. this is a big one when it comes to energy production as well. So when you've done testing, you start to understand how your adrenal health impacts things. So the test I really like to do, and I want to show you guys today, is your Dutch testing, okay? So the Dutch testing is super cool. It is the gold standard for hormone and adrenal testing. Now, I just got this off their website. You can literally type in Google Dutch test samples or sample reports, and you can find something like this. Dr. Carrie Jones, follow her on Instagram if you don't. She's the mecca of hormone health, menopause, perimenopause, periods, all that stuff. She's the founder, creator of the Dutch test. Now, Dutch stands for Dried Urine Test for Comprehensive Hormones. That's sort of the foundation of it, because you are peeing on these little paper strips over, you can see the collection times at the top. So they woke up during the night, but usually you'd go 6 a.m., 8 a.m. So upon waking, 2 hours after waking, in the evening, and then before bed, you would collect it as well. So if you wake up the night, you collect a sample as well. You just pee on this little bit of paper, you let it dry out for 24 hours, and then you just send all the bits of paper to the lab. So it's very easy, done at home test, which is probably why it's one of the favorites as well, not only because of the data it can extract, but also because of the collection. There's no blood testing involved. It's not the saliva samples, which is still good, but it's a little bit fiddly. It will tell you your hormonal picture sort of briefly across the top. It will also then break it down. Not what I'll go into today. I have other videos on this, but it will break down your hormones and why this picture of how your hormones are metabolized through the body is really, really important for correct nutrient intake, correct supplementation, correct hormone replacement therapy, if that's something you need as well. You need to understand how your body detoxes hormones before you add hormones in, or you add supplements in to play around with hormones. But when we're talking about energy, we're looking primarily first and foremost at the adrenal glands. So we want to look at stress, how it acts on the pituitary, how that acts on the adrenal glands, and then how that much cortisol and DHEA that is producing. If you have long-term stress acting on the adrenal glands, and that could be environmental, like that could be like work, that could be family, that could be finances, that could also be internal, like if your gut is in a stressed place and you're still pumping out a lot of cortisol to downplay inflammation, you are going to, with sound cliche, but you're going to burn out your adrenal glands. You're going to hit adrenal fatigue, okay? Poor blood sugar regulation, under fueling for exercise are two big ones as well that will impact DHEA levels. So high stress, you'll pump out DHEA. If anyone has oily skin or acne or PCOS or any of those hormonal imbalances, they usually come from high DHEA. DHEA raises in response to trying to counteract cortisol. So when you're stressed, you're telling your adrenal glands you need more cortisol. You need to be in a fight or flight mode. It doesn't identify that the fact you're under stress at work because your boss is on your case every day, it doesn't understand that that's not you running from a tiger, because you're saying, your nervous system is saying, I'm not safe, I need cortisol, I'm under the pump, and it's like, okay, let's pump out cortisol. That will also give you energy, not the metabolic energy, as in there is a science way of creating energy, which is glucose into the Krebs cycle in your mitochondria to actually produce energy. It's giving you cortisol, which gives you the feeling of you've got energy, okay? So they are two quite different things, and that's why the diet stuff is so important, because that's actually the nerdy sciencey stuff of let's produce energy in the body. And then we've also got the cortisol, the adrenal glands, which people automatically think like, I'm exhausted, it must be my adrenal glands. Well, yeah, you have probably burnt them out because either your diet's been shocking, or you've been under long-term stress, or you're not looking after yourself and having enough downtime. In response to pumping out cortisol, what you'll see happen on something like a Dutch test, because there's two ways to measure the cortisol in the body. You can look at this metabolized, which will tell you how much cortisol your adrenal glands are pushing out. So in this sample, not a lot at all. She's underproducing. Her adrenal glands are done. They said, you know what? You're not listening to me and slowing down. Therefore, I'm just going to stop producing cortisol. Good luck dealing with that. That's essentially what the body's doing. It's just shutting down production because it's like you cannot be trusted with cortisol. There is free cortisol in the body. So that means the small percentage of circulating stuff in the blood, there is a little bit circulating still. So there is a tiny little bit amount like that's still sitting around there, but your body's not actually producing a lot. Sometimes you can see, let's see if it's doing it in this one. Yeah, so you can look at this fan here and see if your body's favoring deactivating the cortisol as well. So it favors cortisone, which is inactive cortisol. This is going a little bit nerdy, rather than cortisol, which is your free cortisol that you can actually use. So you can have, so this is why if you did a blood test of cortisol levels, you would actually come up fine and in range. But you're like, that doesn't seem right because I'm exhausted. You are exhausted. Your adrenal glands are burnt out. You can see that you're crashing in the afternoon. So you're actually waking up with higher levels, and then by the afternoon, you're crashing, and the night you're pretty low. This is going to give you fatigue in a sense because you need to work back and go, okay, lifestyle, stress, diet, minerals, key nutrients, B vitamins, zinc, selenium, vitamin D, all those things are needed to nourish those adrenal glands. But you can't out supplement stress. So you can use nutrients, you can use adaptogens, you can use reishi, mushrooms. They're all going to be really supportive of reducing that nervous system overwhelm and reducing stress. But if you don't address like what the root cause is, like if it's work or it's kids or it's family, you are going to stay in this burnt out state. So I like to test so that I know how to support you and go, okay, your adrenal glands need help. These are the key nutrients you need to be taking. This is what you need to be doing diet-wise. These are the herbs. These are the mushrooms, da-da-da. This is going to help you and you are going to feel better. But you've also got to address all that other stuff, mindfulness, walking, meditation, breathing, journaling, breath work. So it's got to be a two-handed approach there. If you have gut issues on top of this, that also needs to be dealt with because you can't expect the body, and this test usually tells you how your gut's doing at a snapshot. The glutathione, okay, so I can look at that glutathione and go, okay, they're trying to detox something out the body, so they've probably got some kind of gut infections, got enough B6, got enough B12, because that could also be causing fatigue, is iron, B6, B12. The gut mark on this one is within range. So it's saying if there's not a large gut infection, but they just may not be detoxing stuff very well out the body. So it is important to look at that. But if someone comes across with constipation, bloating, or loose stools, I would just say off the bat, go get that tested and look into that. So that's kind of our 3 areas to understand when it comes to energy. 1, what's your diet like? Are you getting those key nutrients in? Are you eating enough carbohydrates? And are you supporting your thyroid? If you're eating those carbs, how are you eating those carbs? Are you eating enough in the morning? Are you eating them with protein? Are you getting 120 grams of protein in each day? And are you balancing those meals? Or do you eat pretty lightly, skip breakfast, and then at dinner eat a heap of carbs? Because that's not healthy at all. I don't care if you're under your calorie goal. I don't care if you're under your carbohydrate goal. You have to be spacing them across the day, or you're going to get those massive rises and dips in blood sugar level. Your protein intake is the same. It must be spaced across the day. There's no point eating like no protein all day, or maybe 30 or 40 grams across the day, and then coming to dinner and having a massive steak and getting 50 grams of protein, because to utilize it properly, you need it spread out across the day. And then lastly, that adrenal health, going, okay, what phase am I in? Am I in a burnout phase, or am I preempting that and going, how can I support my adrenal glands so that I don't hit that burnout point? Does anyone have questions on that stuff? Because I know that's quite a bit of information and it's quite sort of in depth, but I feel like those 3 areas for people to get their head around is really important, that it's not just one thing. It's not just I'm sleeping or I'm not exercising enough or it's work. There is also the aspects of these are the key nutrients I need to be like consuming. I need to check my Bs, I need to check my iron, I need to check my selenium. This is how I need to be structuring my diet. If I've got gut infections, I need to work on that. Otherwise, I need to be adding those carbohydrates in and utilizing them properly. And then also, have I burnt out my adrenal glands? And also, the adrenal glands is best friends with the thyroid. So if you've got any thyroid issues, you do need to look at those adrenal glands because they can't be happy if that thyroid's not happy as well. Pop any questions in the chat box or unmute yourself if you want to ask me anything. I'll just give you a minute in case someone does. Otherwise, if this is something that you're like, yes, I'm really curious on testing stuff, you are more than welcome to message me on Instagram. We can email me just hello@sheridandecker.com, and then you can look at those testing options. So your Dutch comprehensive test, that's about $400 AUD. Your saliva test, so your adrenal saliva hormones is about 200 Australian. And then obviously you can do blood testing with your GP. Medicare and private health don't cover any of these testing. That is the vein of my existence. So they don't, sadly. I wish they did. GPs don't run these kinds of tests. I have a lot more information on them in my podcast and on my YouTube channel if you decide to sort of go down a Dutch test rabbit hole. But I think once you start doing that, you will understand, even if you search like the hashtag Dutch testing on Instagram, you will understand how much information is in a test like this that you can extract from, especially when it comes to hormones. Like the adrenals is kind of the surface level stuff when it comes to Dutch testing, but they are well and truly worth their $400. It's the best investment you'll do on your health, kind of like stool testing. That is worth the $500. There is no, I know it's expensive, but I wouldn't even say it's too expensive for the amount of data you're getting out of it and how much it impacts skin health, energy, inflammatory things, autoimmune diseases, that bacterial balance. It's just eye-opening. Once you do one, you're kind of like, and you have these light bulb moments, and then you can literally plan out your next 6 to 12 months of going, I really need to work on these key areas of my gut health because that's going to impact X, Y, Z. And same with your hormones. Once you know, like I know I'm prone to high DHEA because I'm a stress head and that gives me acne and that makes me miss my periods. I know that now. So if I'm coming into a state like that, I can be like, okay, Sheridan, what do you need to do to balance this before you go into adrenal fatigue? So it is, the data is really important and informative and is worth the money, but it is an investment in your health. So you got to be ready to be like, yep, cool, I'm going to do the testing because I really need those answers and I'm sick of guessing and sick of taking supplements without seeing any results. That's kind of the big one. So I hope that was helpful. But like I said, there's heaps more resources in my Facebook group, Gut Health Solutions, or on my Instagram. And for those listening, please reach out if you have any questions on that. But otherwise, thank you for jumping on. For those watching the recording, thank you for jumping on as well. I really appreciate it. And like I said, if you have any questions or you want to look further into testing or into the way I work with the 6-month program and just getting those results around your energy and your gut health, please reach out or just book a free chat with me and I'm more than happy to help. Thank you.